It's 1981. In many ways, 81 was still pretty much the 70s. Same hair, same style, same fashion, same general vibe of carefree sleaziness. Actually, it sounds like a pretty good time. And these four folks are looking for a pretty good time too. They're at one of them traveling carnivals that happen to show up in their dreary little town. But this ain't no regular carnival. It's a little bit creepier, a little bit sleazier, and in fact, it may have a monster in its employ. Hey everybody, it's your boy Ralph, here at my personal ralphcastle, where I review movies that I seen when I feel like doing so. Today's movie is called The Funhouse, from 1981. At first glance, it appears to be one of them slasher movies that was all the rage in that period of time. But I'm here to argue that it's a bit more than that. In fact, I might go so far as to call it a proper movie. Now, by proper movie, you know it when you see it, and we'll talk about it as I go forward. But as I always do, I like to start off with my overall impression, and that is that it's pretty good, maybe even regular good. So there you go. Now let's dive in. The movie starts off by giving you proper movie vibes, with this big fancy Universal Pictures logo. This isn't some tiny little distribution company or movie studio. It's a proper studio picture. The opening credits are certainly interesting. I'd even say they were a genuine highlight of the film. Look at that. So the movie properly begins in a way that might remind you of the opening scene from the movie Halloween by John Carpenter. We got this young teenager who, boy. Yeah, she has to get in the shower. Of course she does. It was the 80s. I think I might break a record for saying it was the 80s in this particular review. But apparently she's being stalked by a height-challenged individual in a mask. Yes, it's very familiar. And we see this young boy's bedroom, loaded with horror memorabilia. Which is fine, you know? Except for this wall. I'd call this the red flag wall. One thing to have posters, another thing to have torture implements. But no matter. He grabs one of these implements, heads for the shower, and... Oh, it was just a prank, bro. Or just a prank, sis. It's a little brother. And, yeah, interesting choice of pranks. I don't know, I'm gonna have to do it again. It was the 80s. Personally, I don't know what this kid's intentions are vis-a-vis his sister. But, I don't want to go there. Not this early in the review. Turns out this girl was freshening up because she's looking for a night out with their friends, including a first date with some fella. She gets into the car with her date, and her date appears to be a grown-ass man. Once again, 80s. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and make up some headcanon. I'm gonna say she turned 18 months ago, and he's 19. That I can live with. Their two friends are in the back, also from high school. I'm gonna give them names. I remember her name. She's Amy. Amy's all right. She's a pretty good kid. You know, she's kind of classic final girl, but, you know, she's all right. This guy, I'm gonna just call him Beefcake. We got Blondie. And we got Professor Dawkinstein. That's what I'm gonna call this guy. Trust me, he's gonna live up to that name soon enough. So they head off to the carnival. And will you just take a look at this? It was in watching these early scenes that I said to myself, Ralph, this here's a proper movie. Look at the cinematography, the lighting, the colors, the soundtrack, the sound design. Really, it's top-notch stuff. And it looks beautiful in widescreen. And a big part of that is the director. You see, this movie was directed by a guy named Toby Hooper. Now, maybe I ain't heard of him, but I'm sure you've heard of one of his first movies. A little something called Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know, and it goes further than that. A couple of years before this movie came out, he made what might be one of the greatest pieces of horror media of all time. It was a TV miniseries of the Stephen King novel Salem's Lot. People of my generation remember that being one of the most horrifying things we ever sat down and watched. Real stuff of nightmares. A few years after this, what does he do? He makes a cute little movie with a friend of his by the name of Steven Spielberg. He made Poltergeist. Yeah, this guy does know his stuff. Yeah, so it should be no surprise that this movie looks and sounds and flows like a real movie. And that's absolutely in its favor. Anyhow, but let's go back to the home for a second. And look what's going on here. Little brother of the unknown intentions toward his sister is heading out of the house to go to the carnival himself. Now, once again, in my head, what I'm picturing is that he's just concerned for her well-being. So he's a concerned little brother, not a strange little creep who probably needs loads of therapy if not an overnight stay or two. All right, let's go back to the teens. There are hints that maybe not everything is quite as it seems. For one, this carnival has two, sort of derelict folks wandering around. Hey, I'm gonna say it again. Hey, it was the 80s. You know, that was often used to creep people out. People really down on their luck. Oh, they're so scary. You know, this one lady serves as the crazy Ralph of the picture.
God is watching you.
Now, Crazy Ralph is a trope from Friday the 13th, and she's doing basically the same thing here. A harbinger of doom. There's other things that are weird. Now, maybe it's just me, but I went to carnivals in the 70s and 80s, and I don't remember ever seeing some sort of girly joint in the middle of the show. Carnival was kind of a family thing, you know? This seems just a little strange. Also might run afoul of local laws and/or statutes. But there's one here. Now, Amy notices something I don't think nobody else picked up on, except the viewers. You know, there's these things called Carnival Bakers. They're out there with a megaphone or a microphone, and they're shouting, telling everybody to come to this particular attraction. And they got one over here by the girly show. They got another one by the Hall of Oddities. And they got one over here by the titular Funhouse. I don't know if you noticed it, but it's the same guy. And you're asking yourself, what are they, triplets? Identical triplets? Identical cousins? Or maybe it's the same guy, using dark magics to create triplicates of himself. Either way, it's weird. So the pieces are kinda coming together, but not much has happened so far. Until Professor Dawkins over here gets a brilliant idea. How about if the four of us go into the funhouse and stay there the entire night? I know slasher movie characters tend to have executive deficits, as we say in the neuroscience community. This one, I'm gonna give this maybe a 7.5 out of 10 on the dumbometer. Okay, we're gonna let it slide though, right? We gotta get through this. We're gonna let this one slide. So they headed to the funhouse. Overly concerned little brother watches them go in, but they don't come out. But finally, we do get to see the interior of the funhouse. And for a traveling carnival, this thing's a 5-star venue. Look at all this stuff. I mean, that eyeball, that's some craftsmanship. I want to see a funhouse like that. Maybe I'll make my own. Maybe that's my destiny. So shortly thereafter, these four folks are engaging in what we used to call fooling around. That was the term at the time. When they're interrupted by noises below, there are stirrings underfoot. We see this dude who's been dressed up like Frankenstein concocting some sort of transaction between himself and the fortune teller of the carnival. And, there's some sort of business disagreement. One thing leads to another, and we now got a body count and 4 freaked out teenagers. Now, smartly, they decide to just get out of there. So Beefcake over here is trying to open a door, and look who's here. with brilliant idea number 2, Professor Dawkins. He's heading right for the scene of the crime because he saw some money in there before and he decides he wants to take it. This guy, you know? Hey, I like the fact that the guy with the glasses is the biggest idiot, you know? Guys with glasses like me appreciates reverse stereotypes. Anyhow, Beefcake can't get the door open, so they gotta hang out some more. And they witness some more. Seems like, the Frankenstein costume guy. His dad was the Carnival Baker. There were 3 of them. I think it's the one from the Funhouse, but we don't know what's what. He realizes that the money is missing. And yeah, he starts tuning up his adult son. And very quickly... So once again, these 4 teenagers have witnessed atrocities underfoot. Except look who's back. It's Professor Dawkins. And what does he do? He gives away their position. Jerk Dad notices and issues threats upon their personage. And thus, a slasher movie is born. This movie doesn't become a proper slasher movie until about 56 minutes into it. Because it's at that point that Jerk Dad and Beast Boy are trying to put the lid on the crimes that have ensued that evening. So yeah, that's gonna be it as far as my description goes, but let's discuss, shall we? So when I say this is a proper movie, I mean that's mostly praise. You know, it took its time in establishing the characters and their motivations. And it not only did that, it actually has a couple of compelling dramatic scenes between Beast Boy and Jerk Dad. But is a slasher movie better when it's proper? Or better when it's down and dirty? I think of a movie like My Bloody Valentine. Now, My Bloody Valentine has this brutality to it. You kind of almost feel like the director hates the characters almost as much as the killer. It almost feels appropriate to the material. I don't know. And you get a movie like this that's much more of a classic monster movie than it is a slasher movie, despite adhering to some of the tropes. In the end, I am gonna give the edge to the Funhouse. It does a great job setting things up, and it passes the most important test of all. It held my attention. And not everything goes down as expected, but I'll leave that to you to discover on your own. I'm gonna give the Funhouse 3 stars out of 5. All right, that's gonna do it for me. No spoilers this time, guys. Hope things are going well for you and for yours. Signing off from the Ralph Castle, it's me, your boy Ralph. Take care, everybody. Bye.